And let's begin by asking you, what is your comment on Egypt's significant role in delivering humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip?
Good evening to you and your viewers. Certainly, Egyptian role is very dynamic and pivotal throughout the past 15 months. Egypt has a great presence with respect to the repercussions of Gaza's crisis. Why there was an effort on the security, diplomatic and political levels, in addition to the support related to delivering urgent assistance to the Palestinian people, and Egypt's desire to the access in the medical and food aid for about inside the Gaza Strip, despite the refusal of Israel. But Egypt's solid stance since October 2023 played a great role of the necessity of the provision of all support entitlement for the Palestinian people, including medical and food assistance, and the exiting the wounded to Cairo and Alexandria hospitals, and therefore this effort continued throughout the process of negotiation that played a great role to provide several approachments to complete the exchange deal that witnessed today, that would last us through 3 phases of each 42 days. And Egypt, this is an Egyptian proposal presented in June 2024, rejected by Israel and Hamas, and returned accepted in El Doha with the pressure of the United States. But all the ideas are originally from Egypt, even the related to support the humanitarian needs. And this effort, all the community, the international community, praised as Egypt is a pivotal, effective player, and that it joined five rounds of the conflict between Egypt and Hamas, following all these types and rounds of wars ended with the Al-Aqsa flood in 2023.
So we talked about Egypt's pivotal role. Now let's tackle the international community's role. What is your message to the international community regarding sending aid to Gaza, especially United Nations agencies?
Certainly for the international community to cooperate strongly with Egypt, as Egypt managed to provide the support, and it has several tools of instrument to deliver the aid. And we cannot forget that what Israel did by rejecting the delivery of the aid, and Egypt that responded by not to get out the foreigners unless the deliveries of the aid should be accessed. And therefore all the world countries, even the UN Secretary General, visited Egypt and explored the effort of the Egyptian rule and visited Rafah crossing, and witnessed and explored the assistance of Egypt, provided that more than 80% of the aid. And the international community escalated their roles to assist in the provision of all types of assistance, food, medical supplies and fuels, in order to operate all the electrical networks, hospitals and etc. And the necessity of having the UNRWA to keep operative, supported by Egypt, as Cairo has the great provided several health facilitation and called upon of convening international conferences to make the UNRWA keep operative due to the experience of Egypt, and to find raising the great amount of money to assist the Palestinian people to plan to Egypt, and has called upon for convening an international conference for the reconstruction of Gaza, and approved that Egypt has a great insight as an experience and to provide the great cooperation play along with the United Nations and the UN entities to save the Palestinian people that require more than 20 years for reconstruction and a great amount of money that would reach more than 20 billion US dollar. So and this, of course, would be assisted by the international community and particularly the UN institutions.
I would take from what you just told me, Sir Ashraf, and ask you the process by which Egypt played a significant role in the scale of aid sent to Gaza since the beginning of the crisis until today, especially the diplomatic way.
I think this effort was very dynamic and sustained. Egypt has managed to direct all the diplomatic and political powers through the UN Security Council and the United Nations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi adopted the Palestinian cause to have an end of the process of genocide. The president has managed throughout all this time to invite all the world leaders through which to convey messages for their communities of the necessity to change the optimism towards the Palestinian and to change the European and Western stances in supporting the Palestinian cause as what the Israeli Authority claimed that what they've done is just a matter of self-defense. So, and of course, who found the change of the directions throughout the world and called upon Israel to stop the atrocities. In addition, that Egypt, the Egyptian leadership, through the participation of international and Arab conferences in Riyadh and several capitals, as well as the participation of the G20 and in India and Brazil, as through the speeches of the president and through the international platforms, to send this message to Egypt has already conveyed the message and along with the international community to direct their directions, particularly the United States and President Trump, to solve the problem through the diplomatic relations provided by achieving a deal through which an exchange of detainees and prisoners and a ceasefire and the access and delivery of the humanitarian aid, despite all the great challenges that Egypt was going through.
So, despite the challenges, as you mentioned, Mr. Ashraf, how has Egypt demonstrated its leadership in the region through its role in the ceasefire and delivering aid to Gaza, working on both tracks simultaneously?
This matter that would require a great effort in Egypt, and a role of a state like Egypt that enjoying a very present regional presence and the cooperation with the international community, European Union and the United States, and through the negotiation and diplomatic role to deliver the humanitarian aid and to make some sort of approachments between the two parties. And Egypt has won the battle regarding the Palestinian cause and reaching a peaceful solution that led to the deal through three phases, and continue to reject the Israeli settlement that created that was very insightful about this, that managed to spoil the Israeli objective of liquidating the Palestinian cause.
And that was very clear for Egypt. Egypt called repeatedly, President Abdel Fattah Sisi called repeatedly for refusing to liquidate the Palestinian cause. So Egypt's role in the prisoner exchange process between Hamas and Israel, how do you see it?
Certainly, this is a pivotal role as in a very ad hoc meetings convened in Egypt in the past 2 days related to the technical meetings formed by Egypt, USA, Israel, and Qatar. And for the first time is the Palestinian Authority to participate, through which a tripartite operation room was formed, and this committee is working 24 hours a day through the mechanism of delivering the aid. And Egypt laid out in a very aggressive program throughout the timetable, as Egypt should have a transparent mediator in the exchange of the detainees and the provision of the aid without any obstacles, and as well as the rejected Israeli stances, and should provide, and all these mechanisms should be facilitated despite the announcement of the ceasefire. But Cairo played a great role in facilitating the obstacles, and through such a mechanism, all the articles of the agreement will be executed.
The Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati announced Egypt's intention to hold an international conference for Gaza's reconstruction, a very important point after what we have seen, the amount of destruction we have seen in Gaza. How do you view these efforts?
It is in a very complicated process in light of destruction from 70 to 75% of the Gaza infrastructure, according to the International Bank estimation that would require more than $80 billion. So the halting of the strategic operations that led to such destruction. So Egypt sees win the deal to end the military operation and exchange of detainees, and the consistency of all the articles of the treaty. So the world side should be directed to the what's next, following the next day of the end of the war. And Cairo is fully prepared and ready to convene such an international conference to collect all the international consensus for the process of reconstruction of Gaza, and lay down a development map for Gaza, and establishing a fund for supporting Gaza to be participated by all the international community, regional factors with fundraising. And as well as the Egyptian institutions also would participate.
But speaking of the reconstruction of Gaza, the United Nations said that the reconstruction of Gaza may take until the year 2040. How would you describe this report? And when it comes to implementation, would it be actually effective if Egypt and international players tried to have or to organize a special conference for the reconstruction of Gaza? That would make the process even faster, or not?
Of course, it would be very fruitful. So when you convene an international conference in a very pivotal state such as Egypt, and the international community is fully confident with its well and determined set of the main pillar through which a development process will be launched. This should be systematically studied to be drawn in plans along with the international community to do the process of reconstruction according to maps. Firstly, we should remove all the rubbles and the aids regarding the construction through the Rafah crossing, and foreign companies with Egypt, along with international institutions, through a working group or workshop to be established to study the amount of money that is required for this, to show to at least for the time restraints to make it more escalated. And this type of the conferences and conventions should provide a very escalated and studied plan through which, in a very speedy way, to do the process of reconstruction.
So what about the role of Egyptian construction companies when it comes to the reconstruction of Gaza in the coming period? I'm talking here about Egyptians, whether private or public companies.
Certainly, Egypt has a great companies for reconstruction. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spoke about more than 150 development and reconstruction companies that contributed in the process of reconstruction throughout the past 10 to 15 years, and they have a great presence in the Arab world. Egyptian companies contributed in a great project in Libya, Yemen.
Yes, true.
And the Gulf countries, also in Lebanon, in Iraq. All these companies have a great presence also in the African countries. They had around 5,200 companies that are very great and giant corporations, and they has a great potential, such as the money and a great expert and engineers and very reliable and to make a presence in the Gaza Strip that contain experiences contributed in a great and giant project in the Gulf countries and Egypt and Iraq. So upon the opportunity to pave down or to lay down, so these companies that have a very skillful workers from engineers and workers to do a very great reconstructions in Gaza, but this should be through the international conventional conferences and a fund in order, along with the cooperation with the international organization. This wouldn't be happened unless we have a very comprehensive and just and peaceful process to solve the Palestinian cause.
That was Editor-in-Chief of Al Ahram newspaper, Mr. Ashraf El Ashri. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News.